But at one point, I hope I'm not offending anybody, except those who need to be offended. But I came up in a different era, you know what I mean? I came up in the wild 60s. I came up when we said, you know, people, what did we say then? We said nations, you know, we said countries want independence, nations want liberation, and people want revolution. We came up in a period when we said revolution is the main trend in the world today. Ain't that way no more. In fact, of that Sisyphus syndrome that Du Bois told us, the rock has rolled back down the hill and into the bushes. It's rolled back so far. But that Harlem Renaissance, that was a period. That was a period when we rolled that rock up the hill. And Du Bois and Robeson was probably the most famous black person on the planet. He was as famous as Muhammad Ali was in the 60s. He was as famous as Michael Jackson was. Shows you the different kinds of famousnesses that we have. When black people recognize Paul Robeson all over the planet, because Paul can speak how many languages? 18 languages? And Paul actually was an aesthetic kind of analyst. You should read his complete works where he talks about the pentatonic scale and how the pentatonic scale is found all over the world, whether you're in Russia or Africa or South Carolina or China, you can find that scale. He laid out how that scale, for instance, when Europe begins to take power, when European capitalism takes power, that the actual scale changes from a pentatonic scale to a diatonic scale, and on the harpsichord they got them levers so you could switch from the pentatonic scale to the diatonic scale. But when Europe gets absolutely powerful, then they create a piano with black and white notes, so you know they in power, and the black notes is down there, and most of the notes is white notes. That's what you call the segregation. That comes from Paul Robeson. And the reason that we could play the blues when we came to the United States, because black people, we came over here, you know, in the bottom of the slave ship. Nobody else came here in the bottom of the slave ship. Never forget that. We the only ones came here, Americans in the bottom of the slave ship. So that when we came and looked at the piano, it had white and black notes. So we said, them must be our notes. Dong, dong, dong. Of course, Robeson went to Hollywood, and some of those films are sad, and he protested. And what he said was interesting to me. He said, first, I was like all the other black actors. I thought that it was something for us just to get in them. We back to that again. When you can see Negroes making films like White Chicks, when you can see House Party 8, House Party 9, House Party 10, when you can see Negroes in movies like Barbershop criticizing Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks, you know, we back to that. You understand? We back to that. But Robeson said he learned that finally the black artist had a responsibility not to be in garbage, not to be in stuff that insulted his people, not to be in stuff that held him down to the ground. And you must insist on that. You have to insist on that. You have to insist on these artists, you know, that it's not enough for you to be skilled at your craft. You also have to develop what Du Bois called true self-consciousness. True self-consciousness, to know who it is you are and where you came from. And so, Robeson finally ducked out of Hollywood. By the time some of those films came after Emperor Jones, you know, Sanders of the River, Tales of Manhattan, you know, he finally said, I cannot endure this anymore. Although the great roles that he did on stage, like Othello, and it's interesting that Robeson, best friend, was a man named Bumpy Johnson. There was a movie made about him. Somebody stole my script. There was a movie made about him called Hoodlum. But Bumpy wasn't a hoodlum. He was one of our men of letters, one of our intellectuals. But Bumpy Johnson and Robeson discussed the influence of Chaucerian English on Shakespeare just before Robeson did Othello. And when Robeson went up to Peekskill to sing, and the right wing drove him out during the McCarthy period, he got Bumpy Johnson And Bumpy Johnson sent 50 well-dressed Negroes with pistols up to Peekskill. And his line was this: if anything happens, shoot anybody that needs to be shot and worry about it later. Said, if don't nobody need to be shot, stay up there and learn something. So during that period of McCarthyism, Robeson was attacked. He was put under house arrest, his passport taken. Also Du Bois, our two giants. Passport taken away. Finally, they accused Du Bois even of being an agent of a foreign power. And when he won that, that was the first victory against McCarthyism. And it's interesting that when Robeson denounced this move toward war with the Soviet Union that the United States was planning, who did they get to denounce Robeson? A Negro named Jackie Robinson. And so that whole question of integrating the big leagues was made for two reasons. Rest of money, because they saw that you made a whole lot of money with the black all-star game at Soldiers Field in Chicago, but also that so they could have a celebrity to denounce Paul Robeson. The artist must stand for freedom or slavery. So I'm just giving you a few things about Paul. Finally, of course, he was attacked. He went to the House Un-American Activities Committee. He told them, look, my people were born here. We're going to have some of this America. He told Harry Truman, if you all don't come down here in the South and stop this lynching, black people are going to have to stop it. And Harry Truman said, what is this, a threat? You know, Harry Truman was an intellectual. He said, what is this, a threat? But when people ask me about my own politics, the reason that my work is political, I say, that is our tradition. Should I be less political than David Walker? Less political than Frederick Douglass? Henry Highland Garnett? Should I be less political than Du Bois? Or Zora Neale Hurston or Langston Hughes? Less political than Sterling Brown? Less political than Jimmy Baldwin? No. That is our tradition. Our tradition. Our tradition is to write even poetry, even music that seeks to change this foul country. And so I want to end with this poem called Revolutionary Legacy, Revolutionary Tradition. I wrote this for Robeson's birthday a few years ago. And it's interesting that Amina and our second son, Raz, was born on the same day, April 9th. When it all comes down, this is B.B. King, look for me. I'll still be around when it all comes down. Look for me. I'll still be around when it all comes down. Look for me. Paul Robeson, a giant in the land of midget murderers, paper tigers with electronic Wizard of Oz snarls and growls that make the people suffer and starve. Midget murderers, snarling paper tigers who slobber blood on the world from the Hudson to the Niger. Paul is still large, large and black, black, large and red, and in these things, Paul said, the rulers still hold over his head. Two things, said he, the rulers don't like about me, my opinions and my nationality. But giants do not fear crumb-sized murderers. And black and red giants are armed with the weapon of socialist theory, so paper tigers get very, very scared. Yet this huge black and red brother, we have to look hard to find such another, was stalked and hunted by the circus crew. And when they hurt Paul, they wounded me and you, these slave masters, bacteria like Rockefeller and Astor, these imperialist swine. You read their newspapers, you watch their TV and movies all the time. Could harass and pursue and attack all working people too. Two great figures these Nazis feared, Big Paul and Dr. Du Bois, our other defiant giant they attacked with newspaper, academic, and pseudo-civil rights hacks. Tried to serve the good doctor on the imperialist altar, replaced by two minstrels, Boy Roy Wilkins and Little Walter. But Du Bois, the good doctor, and the giant Paul Robeson, this pair of revolutionary figures, were slandered and red-baited by imperialism, which they hated. They put Paul under house arrest. He was even forbidden to sing. Du Bois they dragged into their phony court, where McCarthyism got his first ass whipping. Of course, united in struggle, the people fought. From Du Bois and Paul, we got the world and all, history and Africa, the South and struggle, politics and art, militancy and creativity, scholarship and revolution, the only solution. They were heroes to the world's people of all nationalities, but they were red and they were black. I still live, said the doctor, even under the beast's attack. The artists must fight for freedom of slavery, Paul chorused, at the coal mines, the docks, the factories, the international conferences on peace, and I have made my choice to fight for freedom. And that's why these revolutionaries still give us strength every day. That's why the fools and racists can't make them fade away. Two great beings of fire and light. Two great figures who can make day out of night. And the huge constellation called Paul Robeson has returned once again. His century of revolutionary struggle will guide without end. Paul the artist, Paul the actor, Paul the scholar, Paul the fighter, all combined. So he was the tallest of men. Yet we are still in this world of fake humans and real dogs. A world like a bloody pig pen whose rulers are hogs. Finance capital, U.S. imperialism, national oppression and the racist disease, and liberal pipsqueaks who trick us by killing only after they say please. Still, we will win. We win. Never doubt it. I say it again. We're going to win. Never doubt it. We will win. My comrades, even science says we'll win. And who have the butchers got like the good doctor, Almighty Paul, who even under ceaseless attack resisted and struggled and demanded we all fight back. These dogs Paul fought have nothing unless it's bought. No science but murder. No church except money. No law except robbery. No literature except lies. No art but disguise. Even in the Bible, Revelation described our enemies metaphorically but well. This beast that rose smoking from the western sea. Triple sick imperialism, the superpower from hell. Read on. They trick, they whisper, they destroy, and they smell. And the ancients before them knew the science of name. Call on the ancestor, and the spirit also came. So we call on the doctor. Dr. Du Bois, come back. Come on back. We call on Mighty Robeson. Hey, Paul! Hey, Paul Robeson, we need them. We need them both to blunt the beast's attack. Hey, Dr. Du Bois. Hey, Paul! Paul Robeson! Paul Robeson! Hey, Paul! Be with us now as we start to fight back. Dr. Du Bois! Hey, Paul! Hey, Paul! Hey, Paul! Hey, Paul! Paul Robeson, we need you. Come back. They're with us here now. At the head of our thrust, a revolutionary legacy, revolutionary tradition, revolutionary trust. Okay, they say. Now, let us move forward.